Today, we're showing you how to save big bucks by spending more of your time than your money on costly repairs. We'll show you how to replace a leaking CV axle seal and bushing, how to replace a water pump that's gone bad without busting your knuckles, and we'll take the time to replace an AC condenser and dryer to make your air blow cold again. It's all today here on Truck Tech.
Hey guys, welcome back to Truck Tech. Now in the shop today is a 2011 Mercury Mariner, essentially the same thing as the popular Ford Escape. Now the reason it's here is not too long ago the automatic transmission started shifting a little bit weird. The owner bought it to the dealer in case it was a software issue, but the dealership informed him that it was an automatic transmission fluid level problem due to a leaking transmission seal. But once the owner was presented with a nearly $1,000 repair bill, I told him we could do better and walk you guys through the process of the repair, just in case you have one of these parked in your driveway. Step 1 is removing this plastic splash shield so we can see what we're doing and gain access. Now at first, it looks like this is just a bad half shaft seal, but after a quick inspection, well, it's pretty clear there's more to it than that. I think the support bushing is worn out. In fact, if I hold this half shaft up long enough, it starts weeping transmission fluid out pretty quick. Only one way to fix that, let's replace the bushing. Next, we're going to remove the drain plug and let all the transmission fluid drain out. Yummy. Now the majority of the cost of this repair is in the labor. And by showing you guys how to do it, maybe you'll realize that if you've got the time, you can save a lot of money too. Now to separate the splined half shaft from the wheel bearing, I'm using an impact hammer. But a regular hammer will get the job done as well, it just might take a little longer. Then we can separate the knuckle from the strut and finish removing the half shaft. Once that's done, we're just about there. All we've got to do is pry the half shaft out of the transmission. Now I'm using a piece of wood to insulate the aluminum pan from the pry bar. There we go. You don't want to cause damage in the process of a repair. Now I'm using our Matco seal puller to get the seal out of the case, but a small pry bar or screwdriver will work as well. That'll work well. Now this job does require a special tool to safely remove the bushing from the transmission case. But don't let that discourage you from tackling this job. I'll explain more in a second. After driving the special tool into place, it expands and grabs onto the end of the bushing. Then you can thread in the large bolt until it bottoms out against the differential cross shaft. Now I'm using an electric impact just to run the bolt in. Once it bottoms out, I'll go ahead and tighten it down by hand. I don't want to damage the threads of the special tool. As you can see, it doesn't take a ton of pressure either. Got it. Now don't let the requirement of a special tool derail you from tackling a job like this. If you're looking at hundreds and hundreds of dollars to pay somebody else to do the job, forking over 150 or 200 bucks for a special tool isn't that bad in comparison. Now we got lucky and we borrowed ours from the local Coleman Taylor Transmission shop, same place we picked up the replacement seal and bushing, but it's not just a stock replacement. Now here's the stock bushing compared to the replacement, and this one is clearly worn out. Not to mention, it's not nearly as wide as the upgraded bushing, which helps to distribute the load. Now you can see the original bushing on the CV shaft and where all that play was coming from. That sucker is worn out. Where the replacement fits a lot tighter, and we'll eliminate that problem. Make sure the oil notch is lined up with the notch on the tool. And at the 6 o'clock position, it's pointing straight down. Make sure everything lines up properly. And make sure it's flush with the seal surface. Solid noise tells me we're done. Now the bushing's fully installed, but the special tool's a little stuck in the case. So I'm using parts and pieces from a ball joint press to get it out of there. Cool, it's flush with the surface like it's supposed to be. We're good. Now it looks like somebody's pried a seal out before and replaced it, but since they didn't replace the bushing, the best seal in the world isn't going to fix that problem. There's a new seal on the tool so it goes in square and seats evenly. Just make sure you apply a little ATF to the seal surface before you install the half shaft. All the way in. And look at that. Nice. That's how it's supposed to be. Now before I reinstall the outer end of the half shaft, I'm applying a little Loctite anti-seize to make sure this thing disassembles easily in the future. Then it's simply a matter of reassembling the front end. All right, now with everything buttoned up, the last step is filling the trans with fluid. Now this 6F35 takes a very specific type of ATF, so make sure you're using the right stuff. And if you're wondering why we didn't put a filter on the transmission while we were working on it, well, some engineer had the bright idea to put the filter inside the transmission where you have to split the case to access it. Not a great idea, but all the more reason to change the fluid more often so the filter doesn't get clogged up and give you drivability problems.
After the break, we'll replace that worn-out water pump. And later, we'll get the AC working again with a new condenser and dryer. Stay tuned.
Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Now recently, we walked out to the parking lot and saw a puddle of coolant underneath this Cherokee. A quick inspection revealed a failing water pump. And with the system not holding coolant and a water pump on its way out, driving it is not a good idea. So it leaves you with a couple of options. You can tow it to a repair shop, pay them a few hours labor and parts markup, and spend $300, $400, maybe even $500 having them fix it. Or you could spend a couple of hours, get your hands dirty, and spend less than $100 and fix it yourself. Now, according to the owner, there were a couple of warning signs with this failure. He had some squealing noises coming from the engine bay. That's because the belt was slipping on the pulleys from being contaminated by the coolant. And after it's been parked for any period of time, it's marking its spot. I can take the tension off the belt. If you don't have a belt routing diagram on the radiator support, take a picture or just remember how the belt gets routed. It's in decent shape, but once these get contaminated, they need to be either cleaned really good or replaced. Now we can remove the water pump pulley. Yeah, you can see the coolant inside the pulley. The thing's been leaking for a good little bit now. Oh yeah, that thing's toast. Now with the pump off, we can take a closer look. You already saw the play in the hub. What happens is the bearing starts to wear out and coolant gets past the seal and starts coming out of the weep hole. You can also see more evidence here where the pulley's actually been eating into the aluminum housing. So we went to AutoZone and picked up some replacement parts. We've got a new pump and gasket for about $35. Since we're already into the system, might as well add a thermostat for about $8, new coolant for about $8 or $10, and around $30 for a new belt, which isn't even a necessity. If you clean your old one really good, you can get away with reusing it. But before we install these parts, gotta scrape off the old gasket.
Ryan starts with a general purpose scraper to remove the big chunks of gasket from the thermostat housing and the water pump flange.
Rest I can get with a razor blade. Clean the surface. Throw some RTV on there and a gasket. We'll be good.
Ryan's going to remove the original heater hose adapter and clean the threads before reinstalling it into the new water pump. This adapter has a unique path that it has to follow, so pay attention to the orientation as you remove it from the pump, and be sure to duplicate that as you reinstall it.
Somebody use Teflon tape. I actually prefer the liquid.
Regardless of the method you prefer, it's important to have some sort of thread sealant on these tapered pipe thread or NPT fittings.
Even though I'm using a gasket, I like to use a little sealer as well, just to make sure we don't have any leaks. Might be a little overkill, but I'd rather not do this job twice. About a job like this, it doesn't take any special tools.
Make sure that the temperature rating on your new thermostat matches that of your original one.
I'm actually going to let that set up just for a couple minutes, start to skin over, then we can install it. Once the RTV is skinned over a little bit, we can install it without all the gasket smushing out the sides as we tighten the bolts.
The biggest reason for wanting to use new coolant is that over time it can become contaminated by corrosion inside the engine and become less effective. Also, if you've used any sort of radiator leak preventative in the past, this is a great time to flush it out.
All right, now with the system filled up, give everything a once-over, fire up the engine, turn the heater on, and let the coolant circulate as it gets up to operating temperature. Then let it cool off for a few minutes, check the coolant level, top off if necessary, and take it for a spin around the block. Then give yourself a pat on the back for a job well done and for saving a few bucks.
Now that we've got the water pump keeping the engine cool on this Jeep, let's see what we can do about keeping the interior cool. Now we're going to be replacing the air conditioning condenser and receiver dryer, as well as using these tools from Matco to evacuate and recharge the system with this refrigerant from AutoZone. We knew there was damage on the condenser which had caused the refrigerant to leak out, so to get access to it, we removed the grill followed by the upper radiator support. With the upper radiator hose clamped off and swung out of the way, we can access the retaining clips that hold the air conditioning condenser connections tight.
This thing's gonna be a little tricky.
Disconnecting the fittings at the condenser does require a line disconnect tool, and we got ours from Matco. And with that, the condenser is ready to lift out. That right there is why we got no air conditioning. Installation is just the reverse of the disassembly. Now these included thread cutting nuts take advantages of the soft aluminum to secure the air conditioning condenser to the radiator. Makes their own threads. When reassembling the condenser fittings, be sure to use a specific air conditioning lubricant instead of motor oil. It will contaminate the system and cause poor performance. Don't forget to install these safety clips over the connection. Another cool tip is to always line these clamps up exactly where they came off, because these hoses get hard and they might not seal just right if you don't. The receiver dryer acts as a reservoir for the refrigerant and also filters out any contamination and moisture. Now the receiver dryer should be replaced anytime you breach the system for maintenance. Now at $35, it's not that big a deal. As a precaution against future leaks, we're replacing the O-rings and gaskets with the new ones provided. careful not to nick the new O-rings when you're installing them. We're installing a new low pressure switch on the receiver dryer. These things are made of plastic, so be very careful when you tighten them. They're super easy to damage. Hey guys, welcome back to Truck Tech. Now that we've got our air conditioning condenser and receiver dryer replaced, we can continue to recharge the system with refrigerant. With our high and low side lines connected, we can use our Matco vacuum pump to evacuate the system. Once the system reaches about 25 inches of vacuum, leave the pump on for another 10 minutes or so to make sure it's thoroughly evacuated. Then close the low side valve and wait another 15 to 20 minutes to make sure there's no leaks. If the vacuum escapes, that's how you'll know. Ours was good to go, so it's time to add the refrigerant. Check your owner's manual for the specified amount of refrigerant. Ours takes about 20 ounces, which is roughly a can and a half. Be sure to bleed any remaining air from the suction line before introducing the refrigerant to the system. Once the system equalizes with pressure, you can start the car and turn on the air conditioning. Once the air conditioning runs, it'll slowly start to suck refrigerant from the can into the system. Each time the compressor kicks on, it'll draw a little bit more refrigerant in the air conditioning system. Now, this may take a while, up to 15 to 20 minutes before the pump will run constantly and you can start worrying about pressure. The goal is to keep the high side pressures in check while keeping the evaporator as cool as possible. The gauges will let you know how you're doing by reading temperature and pressure. We're at about 38 degrees at the evaporator. As soon as that electric fan kicks on, it should drop down quite a bit, hopefully pretty close to about 32 degrees. And when the head pressure drops, that means the system will be operating in its peak efficiency. There it goes, it's gonna drop, slowly dropping. Temperature and pressure, just a tad over 30. Be nice and cold inside. Even in our warm shop, you can tell the system is working and pumping out some nice frosty air.
This is JKS Manufacturing lower control arms for an 07 through 16 Jeep Wrangler JK. They're a heavy-duty design, so they'll definitely take a beating on the trail. And with their adjustability and length, it helps to control caster along with pinion angle. And with this rotating design, suspension travel is almost unlimited. So if you're looking to upgrade the lower control arms on your Jeep JK, check out JKS Manufacturing.
If you're looking for an inexpensive brake upgrade for your light truck or SUV, check out these EBC 6000 green stuff pads. They're a great entry-level upgrade and they offer about a 15% increase in stopping power with minimal brake dust. Now these EBC rotors are dimple drilled and slotted for quiet and smooth, cool operation. They're also coated in this nice rust protective coating and they're a great inexpensive performance upgrade for your braking system, especially when you consider the cost.
This is LizardSkin's SuperPro application kit, and it comes with everything you need to lay down these products. It comes with the gun itself, a 1-quart cup, the mixer that just attaches to the drill when you use these 2-gallon setups, and a mil thickness gauge. The great thing about this gun is the large orifice, so it easily sprays these thick materials. So if you're looking to put this application in your truck, check out LizardSkin. Guys, thanks for watching Truck Tech. See you next time.